fact, Fiction gets taken down. Transcendence now for Germany as they try to stay alive on the point. Jake misses a helix rocket. Oh, but the headshots are real. Internet Hulk a little bit low. Jake can get this one. It's a big kill. And the US coming in now. Okay, here's the opportunity. Jake really opening up an opportunity for the United States to possibly win this one. They've got a little bit of control meter building.
This is the nightmare. Jake has no pressure on them. Germany has to get onto that high ground and convince him to stop doing damage, but he's not taking that for an answer. Continuing to fire down on top of the point.
Yeah, Crank's got to get up there, man. He's coming up with the Dragon Blade, but there's the melee. They got just enough damage on it, just in time, and the control meter nearly there. Just 1 or 2 more kills, and the US, they've done it. They are going to BlizzCon.
Is Junkrat the best Junkrat? Love him or hate him, it is an undisputed fact that Jake is one of the most well-known players in the competitive Overwatch scene. Whether it be from his infamy as JjoNak, his history as a streamer, or his contribution to Team USA's run at Worlds 2017, Jake has become one of, if not the face of his team, and the Overwatch League as a whole, gaining dedicated fans and haters because of it. Jacob Jake Lyon is a 21-year-old born in San Diego on July 28, 1996. Being in California, Jake grew up admiring the natural beauty of the outdoors, developing interests in camping, surfing, rock climbing, and kayaking. However, despite his admiration for the outdoors, young Jake had a love for gaming, which was shared with his older brother as they often competed against one another in a variety of video games. Eventually, this passion started a competitive drive in Jake, where eventually he found an outlet in online gaming. When Jake's brother moved to college, Jake dove into PC gaming where he discovered Team Fortress 2. This would be the first competitive title Jake would aspire to play at the highest level. Under the handle Sneaky Polar Bear, he competed in various leagues and tournaments at the young age of 14. Through consistent practice and dedication, Jake had reached the highest level of TF2, becoming an ESEA Invite and UGC Platinum Highlander S18 champion at the age of 16. However, Jake began to feel that Team Fortress 2 was becoming less viable as a title to pursue professionally, and by the time he was attending college, the first leaks and rumors of Blizzard's new IP, Overwatch, started to surface. Jake was intrigued to say the least, but considering his current circumstance, Jake had to make a decision about trying to go pro or finishing school.
Deal with myself is that I'm going to stay in college and graduate college, and if I can't go pro before I graduate college, then I'm done. That's it. That's the end of my esports career. I would probably try and work in gaming, but I just wouldn't compete as a player. And I had accepted that and made that deal with myself. And I think making that deal and having that backup plan and the reality of that backup plan pushed me even harder to give everything that I had to be the best. And I couldn't be happier that I did.
However, despite his high interest in the upcoming game, Jake never managed to get into the beta, and by the time the game launched, he only had a week to play before moving to the Netherlands to study abroad. But this would not impede his competitive drive. While in the Netherlands, Jake was able to play on his partitioned MacBook on Wi-Fi, but despite this, he still managed to reach the top 500 of Europe. Can you guess what hero he achieved this feat with? That's right.
Hi there.
Winston. This may be something of a shock for anyone new to the scene or familiar with his current reputation on a particular hero. Jake had continued playing under the tag Sneaky Polar Bear, or Sneaky, to this point. However, this handle had some confused as to whether or not this handle was a reference to League of Legends player Sneaky. So Jake decided to change his handle. He felt it would be disingenuous to use another gamer alias and decided to charge into Overwatch with his heart on his sleeve, making his gamertag, his own name, Jake. After returning to America, Jake joined Bird Noises, a team composed of former TF2 players, which later became Hammer Esports, before it was bought out and became LG Evil. On LG Evil and its prior forms, Jake made a name for himself as a very tactical and vocal player. As a flex DPS player, he was known for his proficiency with Soldier 76, Pharah, and Genji. Outside of the game, he has been very analytical with his personal blog and been very open in interviews about his criticisms of the state of the game. Combined with his role as an in-game leader, Jake became something of a leading personality amongst players. which has remained true to this day and contributed to him being one of the most well-known players in the scene. Even though LG Evil was not a world-level team and was unable to qualify for Season 0 of Contenders, Jake still managed to get on Team USA 2017 as a flex DPS. And despite the odds set against them, Jake and Team USA played a great set against South Korea in the quarterfinals, but ultimately lost 2-4. This was somewhat of a surprise, as the match was expected to be an easy win for the Korean roster, but Team USA fought valiantly, and Jake's contributions were noticed as a feat that still earns him infamy amongst the Korean pro scene. However, with the advent of the Overwatch League, LG Evil split up, with half the roster being absorbed into Overwatch League teams, including the San Francisco Shock, Boston Uprising, and the Houston Outlaws. Jake would be reunited with some of his Team USA teammates when he joined the Houston Outlaws as a flex DPS player. He quickly became known as both a good in-game leader and, of course, as a Junkrat specialist.
Azupe is able to melt Muma. NYXL, however, wins one fight, and Muma back into it fairly quickly, and the tire! It couldn't be better! Jake, the patience plays off. You're exactly right, Hex, and he sinks 3 players into a world of hurt.
JjoNak, Jakerat, Jake's Junkrat has earned quite the reputation early on in his career, both prior to and especially during the first season of the Overwatch League as a Junkrat master. In Stage 1, his outstanding play on the controversial hero helped his team earn an overall second place finish with a 7-3 record. But at the time, Junkrat was considered a meta pick, and many accused Jake of not being a mechanically skilled player and relying on Junkrat's usefulness in the meta to win games. But in defense of Jake, he plays to the character's strengths, as he is very adept at taking advantage of the hero's spammy playstyle to create space for his team, of which they capitalize on. You also need to give the man credit for all of the direct shots he lands with his primary fire. The single greatest issue that the Houston Outlaws have faced as a team is adapting to changes in the meta. This weakness was most prominent during stages 2 and 3, where their lack of a dedicated tracer player hindered them. The Outlaws have always been a slower paced team, with both NYXL and Jake specializing in characters that play at range. As such, whenever the pace of the game speeds up, the Outlaws suffer as a result. Looking back at their performance across each stage, you can see their match record is highly indicative as to whether or not a current meta suits their roster strengths. But regardless, it's always been clear that Jake's greatest strengths lie in projectile heroes, like Pharah and Junkrat.
Impressive stuff from the Outlaws, as we were expecting here, but Jake, man, that guy on that Junkrat, if he could play it every round, every map, that would be a force to be reckoned with.
Jake uses an in-game sensitivity of 6 and a DPI of 800, resulting in an overall 4,800 EDPI. All things considered, this is a high EDPI for a DPS player, where typically lower settings are preferred to make tracking more accurate and a little bit easier to pull off. But as you may theorize, these higher settings would enable quick and rapid adjustments, which could be useful for certain characters in the roster. Jake has famously been a soldier player that specializes in taking and holding favorable ground and forcing a response from enemy teams. He achieves this by taking high ground and shot calling like a general, systematically directing strikes against enemy weaknesses and being very liberal with tactical visors. He and his team slow the game down to allow Soldier 76's range damage to win teamfights through a war of attrition. Jake plays Genji in a way that is very safe, using his mobility and guaranteed damage to secure kills. In a nutshell, he plays Genji closely with his team to execute coordinated dives on targets. A safe, slower Genji that can punish mistakes by the enemy team. From his Team Fortress 2 background, Jake is proficient with timing, aiming, and getting kills with explosive projectiles. This is proven by his Pharah play, and it's on point. He is capable of shooting other Pharahs straight out of the sky, and always ready to paint the kill feed green with good use of his ult. Now, for the big one. Jake plays Junkrat in 2 ways, controlling space with the hero's arsenal of explosives, or going on sneaky assassination missions to burst down squishies with the Junkrat combo. A repeated tactic of the Jakerat is to advance with the tanks, providing covering fire before splitting off to try and hammer the backline, either killing them outright or just zoning them out of the fight. And with the speed that Jake builds up rip tires, he ends many fights with the sound of fire in the hole! Junkrat has received many nerfs in the past few stages, including a size reduction of the regular grenades, fall off for the concussion mine, and a slower overall rip tire. However, with the slower nature of the current meta and the reliance of shields, Junkrat is still super effective and can cause massive problems for enemy Brigidas. Like it or not, Jake has become the face of the Overwatch League, and as Season 2 comes around, no one knows who the meta will favor. But Jake's story is about the journey, a step-by-step climb up the ranks of Overwatch, growing one solid step at a time. While the Outlaws didn't make the cut for the end-of-season playoffs, the next season brings new matches, new games, new teams, and old rivalries. This season, Outlaws ruled the South, but for Season 2, will it be up the ante or burn blue? But ultimately, we look forward to seeing what Jake comes up with in the future. I don't know about you, but the LA Valiant have an easy win for the Overwatch League playoffs. Stage 4 was a dominating performance. They even beat the best Korean roster in history. Well, if you think any of the things I've just said are outrageous, come prove me wrong at the Akshon Esports Bracket Challenge, where you can win fantastic prizes like a premium gaming chair from Pulse Labs. Interested? Then sign up today at AkshonEsports.com. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and share as it really helps out the channel quite a lot. Otherwise, be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter if you want to stay up to date with all of our content, and hit that bell to stay notified.